Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, let's take a look at how we can create an eye for our characters in ZBrush relatively quickly. What would be the best way? So there's a few different options you could do it, but in this case, I don't normally use other apps like Photoshop, but I think it would be really cool if we created a custom pattern for our eye, and you can even set up like a template, and you can always change colors and all of that. And then always use your own kind of a custom template to project the eye in ZBrush. And that's what I would like to try and see what would be the process for doing so, right? So the first thing we should do is let's jump into Photoshop. All right, so here I am in Photoshop. I already went through the steps and I created the template, but for this exercise, let's start over, right? So I'm gonna say File, New, and I'm gonna select a size for this. You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to do 1024 by 1024 and say OK. So once the new file was created, let's go ahead and do this. Let's create a new layer. Let's make a circle. I'm going to hold on Shift and Alt, and I'm going to draw a circle right in the just kind of find the size that I like. And then what I can do is I can just kind of drag this around and put it in the center, right? All right, so once this is centered, the next thing we should do is let's select our color, and I'm not gonna make it perfectly black, because if you make it perfectly black and insert it and try to import it into ZBrush, ZBrush is gonna treat black, pure black, as transparent. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it just slightly gray, just right above it, right? And I'm gonna say okay and make a circle, right? So it's almost black. All right, so next what I would like to do is I need to create a path that runs along this line to create the inner part of the eye, right? So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Path, and let's say New Path, and let's go ahead and select this ellipse tool, and let's switch this up here to a path. Let's go ahead and activate your, make sure you have your rulers on. That's under View, Rulers, right? And you see them on the side. Now what I can do is I can click inside the ruler and drag a guide, and I'm going to do that for the center, and then hold down the Shift and Alt and drag out a path for myself and just let it go. So now I have a path on top of this black circle, right? Next, let's do this. Let's go to Filter, let's go to Render, and let's click on Flame. All right, in here you want to do a couple things. One of them, you want to select your flame type to multiple flames path directed. Number 4 is what I have selected. And then the length, I set it to 250. 250 doesn't need to be 254. Let's do 250. And then for the, I do have randomized length turned on, so you can see the difference. It's creating kind of a more of an interesting effect, but of course you can play with it and see if you like it. The length, I set it to 70. In my case, that works. Angle 180, right? The 180 is important because then the flame is pointed inwards. And intervals, I have it set to 19. You can of course play around and see if you want them to be spaced out a little bit differently. All right, so once you play around with it and you like your settings, say okay. And now you have this cool flame going around the shape. Now we're done with this path, right? So let's go ahead and right click and say delete path. We don't really need that anymore, right? And now let's go ahead and create the middle pupil part. So I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to create a new layer, grab my circle tool. Let's go in the center and do Shift Alt. And let's just decide what our size of the pupil we want. Maybe something like that. That's fine. Grab my fill and let's just do a black color. And if you press Control H, you can hide the ruler for a second. Let's also go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and let's just blur this up a little bit so it's not so sharp, right? I'm going to say OK. Now, if I wanted to control the color of this flame, one thing I could do is I can go here and let's just set it to image, and let's turn it into black and white. Say okay. All right, so now what I can do, I can right click and go to blending options. And in here, let's just select something like the color overlay, for example. And I'm gonna switch it to soft light And you can play around with these and see which one you like better. But I have it currently set to soft light. And then in here, you can also decide on the color of the eye you want, right? So maybe this time, maybe I'll try the blue one, right? And I'm gonna say okay. You can also add additional gradients to this if you want. And you're welcome to play around with it and see, you know, what you like. If you do set a gradient, you can set it to radial, right? So it's round. And then of course you have options here as well. Maybe, you know, maybe actually I'll turn mine on. I'm gonna leave it on color burn, and gradient overlay is set to radial, right? And I'm gonna say okay. And then if you check these off, you can see the difference, right? So gradient just gave me a little more kind of a woomph, right? Very cool. So the other thing I would like to do is I want to add a little shadow to the top of the eye. How do I do that? I'm going to press Control and click on this, and you can see there's a selection that formed around my shape. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to grab a brush. Let's make my brush kind of large, and I'm going to set it to soft round pressure size. I'm going to leave it on black, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do something like this. That's going to be kind of the top part of the eye is going to be a little bit dark, right? The next thing we can do is we can of course turn this down, and maybe we don't want it to be completely black, right? So we'll do something like that. Another thing I would like to do is I want to add some reflections to this. So I'm going to create a new layer again. Let's grab this, let's set this to white, and in here let's just simply get rid of this selection. Let's just create kind of a couple of reflectors, right? Light reflection. So I'm going to do that, and I want to make sure that it's all the way to the top, on the top layer, right? And let's do maybe another one here as well, just a matter of preference, right? Just kind of an artistic choice. So let's say I like this. Another thing we can do is let's add another layer on top. I'm going to grab my brush, and let me make my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm going to actually still leave it on this soft round pressure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of a highlight right here for my eye, and then I'm going to grab this smudge tool. I'm just going to smudge the ends a little bit so it kind of goes up, right? So I'll do something like that. That's cool. I can also switch it from normal to maybe an overlay, and you can see the difference. Now I have like this kind of a even brighter light underneath, and maybe I can turn this down a little bit if I wanted to. I'm going to also turn off my background. All right, so now let's just export this out. So I'm going to say File, Export. I'm going to say Export PNG. And I do want it transparent, and let's just go ahead and export this out. All right, once you do that, let's go ahead and jump into ZBrush. And in ZBrush, here's my other eye, right? Let's start over. I'm going to go to Lightbox. Let's go ahead and choose a sphere. I'm just going to choose this sphere 128. That's fine. And the first thing I would like to do is I want to change the resolution of the sphere. Currently it's 128. Let's go ahead and set this to 512. Press Enter. I'm going to press Control and drag, and you can see my points went up to almost 700,000. Very nice. Let's make sure that it's white color, and let's change the material to maybe something a little bit brighter, like this Skin Shader 4. I think it's pretty nice. Okay. Now the next step is, let's go ahead and jump out of the perspective view so it's nice and flat. All right, so next let's go ahead and create the round circle for our pupil or our iris, right? So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Control key, go into my masking, and I'm going to select this Mask Perfect Circle in my Quick Pick. I'm going to go in the center, holding down the Control key. I can now just drag a selection of the size of the eye that I want. I'm going to go with something like this, and I'm going to let it go. Now you can see that this is masked out, but it's not really that sharp, right? So what I would like to do is I'm going to press Control and click to blur the lines a little bit, and I'm going to do it a couple times. And now what I'll do is I press Control and click to reverse my mask. I'm going to change this color to black and do a fill object. So I'm going to make sure that my RGB is on at 100%, and I'm going to set this to black and do a fill object. Okay. Now I'll switch this back to white, do control and drag, and now you can see I have something like this. I have the white eyeball with the black in the center, right? Now let's go ahead and bring our texture in. So I'm going to go to texture. I'm going to say texture import. Find the PNG that you exported out of Photoshop. Here's mine. Now I'm going to simply select it, and I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to make sure that my transparent texture is on, my anti-alias texture is on, and I'm going to add it to Spotlight. As soon as I press add it to Spotlight, you can see it appeared over my sphere. So now I can do a couple things. One, I can make it smaller. I can also drag it and put it in position. And let's go ahead and make it smaller still, and just do something like this, right? So it's aligned right in the center of my eye. And I think that's pretty good. All right, once that's done, let's go ahead and press Z. Grab our standard brush, make sure RGB is on, hold down the S key, make our brush kind of large, and let's just simply make sure your spotlight projection is on as well, and then also turn off symmetry, right? So now we have this big brush, and what we're going to do is we're going to click and drag over our eye, and that's going to project our eye right onto our sphere. So once you're done that, let's go ahead and press Shift Z to hide the spotlight, and now you are left with a projection of the eye. And you can also see there's something in the back here. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. I can just fill it white, that's fine. All right, and this is a quick way how you can project the Photoshop created eye texture onto a sphere and then use that for your eye in ZBrush. And then of course we can also change the material, right? We want it to be a little more reflective. So I hope you found this useful, and now you have a template in Photoshop that you can quickly change the colors of the eye and do various variations for your characters. All right, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in our next one.